time to get you because the big headline from PFL overnight was coming from Jake Paul's promotional company saying he signed up to fight Nate Diaz in the PFL in MMA, and Diaz is maybe not too sure.
Mm.
Could this be the moment? We've seen a lot of crossover fighting events. Could this be the moment that MMA actually gets one up on these guys?
Well, I mean, I don't know, to be honest, because I can't discount Jake Paul, and I know I'm going to take some heat for this, but like he's younger, he doesn't have the same kind of damage that Nate Diaz has got. He was a good wrestler out of Ohio State. You know, he's clearly taken his boxing career very seriously. And I was a couple of meters away from them when they fought boxing, and the reality was that when Jake Paul was landing shots, there was power in those shots, but I didn't really see anything coming back from Nate that was substantial enough to worry his opponent. Now, this is a far more dangerous scenario for Nate Diaz to step in an MMA world because that's his world. If he steps into that and loses to Jake Paul, it's not the same as losing to him in a boxing match. So I feel like the pressure on Nate would be very different, and I don't know as he will allow himself to open the door for Jake Paul in that way. I hope he does, but I think he might hold off as long as he can.
Presumably, if this happens 6, 7, 8 years ago, you give Jake Paul zero chance of winning this fight, right?
No chance at all.
So what's he got now?
Yeah, I mean, if they fought 10 times, I think Jake Paul could probably beat him twice. You know, and I don't say that lightly because I mean, beating Nate Diaz is an incredibly difficult thing to do. But at this stage in his career, you know, he's in his late 30s. He's got a lot of scar tissue. He's been dropped a bunch of times by McGregor alone. You know, so you've got to think that if Jake Paul lands, he's going to be able to hurt him in ways that McGregor wasn't able to. He's a considerable bit bigger than McGregor as well, you know, who used to make 145. Jake Paul's, you know, if he's below 200 pound most of the time, I would be surprised. And I think he can really hurt Nate, especially in small gloves. The question really is whether he gets tangled up with the grappling, whether his wrestling will keep him in ranges where he's going to be safe, or whether he'll just completely disrespect Nate's game and just try and crash through it, which I think would let Nate kind of do what he does best.
No doubt getting Jake Paul involved in the PFL brings so many more eyeballs than you are getting. You want to be involved in an organization that has maximum credibility, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be involved in it. How does the PFL avoid becoming another stop on the Jake Paul circus and he takes over and then leaves and you're where you were before?
I mean, you know, the reality is, even if Jake Paul steps into the PFL and has one fight, he will have my respect for doing it, for stepping. It doesn't even matter who he fights. You know, he could fight another novice MMA fighter who's not had any professional experience. Like, to step in and take that challenge on, it would command great respect from me, and I think from a lot of the MMA world, even if they wouldn't want to admit it. But I also still think everybody is underestimating Jake Paul's dedication. Like, he's not Logan Paul is playing a game, right? He's playing a role, he's playing a character, he's making a lot of money. Jake Paul is focused on boxing, and I feel like that focus can be shifted to any form of combat sports, and I feel like because he's got wrestling in his background, it might be easier to make that transition. And you know, and he's young enough to do it as well. Even if he took 3 years out and focused entirely, you know, went and spent 3 years at Renzo Gracie's in New York and learnt a ground game that would be formidable. Like, he's still got plenty of time. I can't underestimate the guy because he breaks ground constantly, and I think it's a great move by PFL to work with him, and it will bring eyes to the PFL fighters and athletes and events that wouldn't normally watch them. So that's a benefit everywhere around.